Hello everyone, welcome back to FFGLive. My name is Evan Johnson and I'm joined here today by none other than Michael Boggs.
Hey.
And we're here to talk about Marvel Champions, which you are one of the developers on.
I am, yeah.
And specifically, we're talking about this pack right here, which is the Miss Marvel Hero Pack. So this is one of the ones that we talked about at Gen Con for the first time, but now we're actually going to show you guys some cards from it, which is going to be pretty exciting. We'll have a bunch of questions for Michael. If you have your own questions, go ahead and throw those in the chat on YouTube or on Twitch, and I'll shout those out to him. And yeah, we'll just hang out and look at some Marvel cards.
Yeah, sounds good.
Which sounds pretty sweet to me. All right, let's see. Let's start it off with the hero herself. Here is Miss Marvel. Should be appearing on your screens now. So this is a hero card, obviously. She's got 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense, hand size 5, hit points 10. And her ability is Morphogenetics. Response after you play an attack, thwart, or defense event. Exhaust Miss Marvel to return that event to your hand. So that ability seems super powerful, balanced by kind of like her weaker stats and lower hit points. How do you typically approach like balancing a hero? Do you usually like have an ability that you want and then you move the numbers around to balance it, or do you have another approach to it?
I think it's a little bit of everything. With Miss Marvel specifically, we felt that her ability really captured her stretching and shrinking powers, that she could throw something out and pull it back.
Yeah.
And with that ability, with the fact that she has to exhaust to use that ability, her stats, we were like, maybe we can make those a little bit lower, because it does lower her power level, but also she's not going to be using those stats as frequently as maybe another hero.
Right, since she has to exhaust
exactly
to use her thing.
But also in conjunction with that, it's not just about the hero card itself, it's more about the entire set of cards, the entire kit. So we kind of look at the hero and what they're doing, but we also look at the 15 cards that sort of encapsulate what that hero is doing and try to make all of that feel balanced and cohesive.
Sure, so it's not necessarily about balancing like just the hero, but their entire kind of arsenal of tactics and whatnot. So because of her ability, Miss Marvel also strikes me as one of the most like adaptable heroes who can like play equally to these 3 different types of events, where she can be attacking and dealing damage, or removing threat, or defending and blocking stuff. Do you think that makes her more powerful for solo play and kind of more of a natural fit for that?
Yeah, I think she has a lot of versatility, and that does work really well in solo play. I think one of the biggest balancing factors for her ability is the fact that she takes a little bit of time to set up to get really, really powerful.
Sure.
And in sometimes in solo play, you just have to like jump into the action. She just takes a little bit of time before she can do that. So if you can sort of get over that hump, I think she's great in solo play. But I think for that reason, she does take a little more skill than maybe another hero might in solo play.
Sure. Similar to maybe like an Iron Man that has to kind of like build the suit first before he can really kick butt. I have a question from Keggy H. They're asking when we can expect the Psy game to appear in Marvel.
I can't talk about that.
Yeah, of course.
It's classified.
Yeah, naturally, as you would expect. Okay, let's. So someone asking about her hand size. So she has a hand size of 5, 10 hit points on her hero side. But then her alter ego. Do you want to give us the alter ego rundown?
So the alter ego, Kamala Khan, she has 5 recovery. She's an Inhuman, and she has the Teen Spirit ability. Action: discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard a Miss Marvel card. Then add that card to your hand, limit once per round. She has a hand size of 6 and also 10 hit points.
Yeah. So Kamala Khan has a pretty high recovery rate of 5, right? She has low hit points. She has this really useful Teen Spirit ability. Do you see this as a hero who might spend more time in alter ego form than some other heroes?
Yeah, actually intentionally so. So we kind of developed Miss Marvel around the idea that her Kamala Khan alter ego is very much rooted in kind of her family and friends and protecting them and keeping them safe and really relying on them. So we wanted to sort of create a hero that plays with that alter ego dynamic maybe a little more impactfully than we had done with previous heroes. So I definitely envision her as being a hero that flips, if not every round, then at least every other round. She's pretty often going back to alter ego form.
Sure. That's really interesting. I like how there's like already, interplay with like how much a hero spends time like in this form or that form, and yeah, that's really cool. Okay, let's look at some of the cards that she has, some of her 15. I'll read Sneak By here. So Sneak By, this is a 2-resource event, skill and thwart trait. Thwart trait important for her ability, obviously. Hero action, thwart, remove 3 threat from a scheme. So that's pretty straightforward. What does shrink kind of add to that? If you want to read off shrink there.
So like you said, Sneak By is pretty straightforward, but with shrink, this is an upgrade, 2 cost, condition superpower. Hero interrupt, when you play a thwart event, exhaust shrink. Increase the amount of threat that event removes by 2. So those 2 together are a really good combination.
Yeah. So with shrink and then with Miss Marvel's ability, obviously to get back those things. So shrink enhances all thwart events, right? And Kamala, or Miss Marvel rather, has another card like shrink that will show in the article going up after this stream that kind of does the same or similar thing for attack events. Do you think that it's better to specialize Miss Marvel in like one direction? Like, do you want to like pack her deck with like attack events as much as you can, or is it better to balance it out and have a mix?
I personally think that both routes are equally viable. When I play a hero, I personally like to have a variety of things that I can do. I like to sort of be like the jack of all trades. But I have seen many Miss Marvel decks that are very just focused on thwarting or just on attacking or defending as well. So she's definitely one of those heroes that gives you a lot of deck building options and really lets you kind of tailor her to whatever your play style is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question from Krabak here in the chat. Is the art taken directly from the comics, or is it all new for FFG specifically?
It's about half-half. We use some art from the comics, and then we have our own art that we put in there as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're talking about some of the kind of people in Kamala's life that play into more of her alter ego side. So we'll show off a couple of those here. I'll read Amir Khan here. So this is another of Miss Marvel's personal cards. So it's a 1-cost support persona, alter ego action. So you do have to be as Kamala to even use this card. Exhaust Amir Khan. Place 1 card from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck, then draw 1 card.
Yeah.
That seems pretty good.
Yeah, that's really good.
You want to read Bruno?
Sure. Let's take a look at Bruno here. Bruno Corelli, he's a persona as well. 1 cost, alter ego action, exhaust Bruno Corelli, attach 1 card from your hand face down here. Action, exhaust Bruno Corelli, add up to 3 cards attached here to your hand.
Sure. So you can, as Kamala, you kind of load him up, and then when you're in hero form and have a lower hand size, you can just get all those cards.
Exactly. So Kamala, Miss Marvel, is very much defined in her play style by the number of events that she kind of has in her hands, the number of options, and more importantly, the number of resources to be able to play out those big events, pull them back, play them again.
Right.
And so both Amir and Bruno are intended to sort of reinforce that facet of her to say, hey, here are some options to sort of help build up an alter ego form so you can jump into the action as hero and really have these explosive, exciting turns.
Sure. And as Kamala's using her Teen Spirit ability, discarding cards, that's going to be throwing away cards that you probably would have wanted to see.
Exactly.
Right? And so then Amir lets you just get those back in your deck.
Yep.
And cycle as well, which is pretty sweet. Okay, Kamala is, she comes with the protection aspect.
She does,
right?
yeah.
So if you're not familiar with how hero packs for this game works, do you want to just really quickly explain kind of how that works?
So a hero pack will come with a hero and their 15 dedicated cards. And then it'll also come with an aspect, and the aspect will include brand new cards and also some reprints from the core, and then there will also be some basic cards in that pack. So all of those cards together will create a 40-card deck that you can play right out of the box. You open up the box, take it out, shuffle it, and play. You don't have to deck build or anything like that. And then there are also a couple additional cards that we've included for if you do want to deck build in different aspects.
Right, so it comes with protection, but obviously, like every hero, she can be played out of any aspect. But if you just want to play it right out of the gate, you can just stick with protection. So let's look at some of the new protection cards that we have here. I'll read off Nova here, a pretty cool ally.
I like Nova.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. So he's a 4-cost ally, 1 thwart with 1 incidental damage, 2 attack with 1 incidental, 3 health, he has Interrupt. When an enemy initiates an attack against you, spend an energy resource. Deal 2 damage to that enemy. And then you want to read Tackle?
Sure, let's look at Tackle. So Tackle is a 3-cost event. It's an attack. Hero action attack. Stun an enemy. If you paid for this card using a physical resource, deal 3 damage to that enemy.
Sure. So with both of these cards, yeah, we said that
I
was
knew
going to happen.
knock it over.
It was just going to happen. So with both Nova and Tackle, we're seeing a little bit of a different take on protection. We're kind of seeing defense coupled with dealing damage. In the Captain America hero pack, we found kind of more of an Avengers sub-theme to the leadership aspect. As we go into the future, are you planning with each new hero pack to kind of push the aspect that's featured there in a new direction?
Yeah. The core set is meant to establish sort of what the aspect is intended to do in its most basic form. But I think we definitely want the aspects to feel interesting and compelling and like there's a lot of depth to them. So taking them in new directions, I think, is very important for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's look at her card. 1 second. I think that they have not seen Tackle yet. So we will wait 1 moment for that. Okay, we got it. All right, so let's move on to the obligation that comes with Miss Marvel. So this is Home by Dawn. So it says, give to the Kamala Khan player. You may flip to alter ego form. You can choose then. Exhaust Kamala Khan to remove this from the game. Or discard 1 persona support you control. If no support was discarded this way, this card gains Surge. Discard this obligation. So every obligation so far has had a pretty similar format, right? Where you can flip to your alter ego if you want to, and then you can exhaust to just get rid of that obligation entirely. Or you can suffer these negative consequences, which are more personal to the hero. In the future, do you and the design team see yourselves kind of messing with that initial part of it at all, where it's, you may flip to alter ego, exhaust to get rid of this forever?
Oh, definitely. We've actually got some exciting things planned for that, because I think for some heroes this works really well. Kamala Khan has, she's got her parents who are at home waiting for her. Where is she? She's out past her curfew. And so for her, she needs to go back home and take care of this. But not every character quite has that same type of responsibility that they have to fall into. So we're definitely playing with it in the future for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Let's see. I see a question from Smurl. When will we find out more about the big box campaign expansions? Later is the answer. We've got some more hero packs to get through before then. The 2 scenario packs that we announced at Gen Con, so Green Goblin and Wrecking Crew. We'll have more to share on those in the future. But big story boxes, they are coming.
Yeah.
And they are pretty cool.
Exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at her signature Nemesis minion. So this is Thomas Edison, who is Miss Marvel's signature villain. So 3 scheme, 1 attack, 3 health. Has the bird and genius traits. Thomas Edison cannot take damage while you are engaged with another minion. Flavor text, I am not a bird.
Yeah.
Is he actually a bird?
It's debatable. Some people say he is, some people say he's not. He claims he's not. So.
He has like robot hands, but his head looks very bird-like.
He does look very bird-like, yeah.
So he also has the bird trait. Are you calling it that way?
I mean, so from what I understand, Miss Marvel thinks he's a bird. He thinks he's not. It's it's up for discussion, I think. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to read Concussive Blow for us?
Oh,
so
sure.
this is one of the Justice card, or the Justice card, rather, included in this pack.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those extra cards at the end. Yep.
Right.
So this is a 3-cost event, attack, hero action, attack. Confuse an enemy. If you paid for this card using a physical resource, deal 3 damage to that enemy.
Sure. So with this card, we see Justice's kind of typical anti-scheming power by confusing the enemy and keeping them from scheming. However, it also deals damage if you do it in the right way.
Yep.
Going forwards, how do you keep the identities of the aspects distinct, while also giving them room to grow within those bounds.
Sure. That's something that we're always discussing. It's definitely a challenge for sure. But I think we tend to sit down and look at different situations that a player might find themselves in, either mechanically or thematically. And we talk about how would this aspect deal with this situation? How would this one deal with it? And I think from there we've found a lot of room to really develop new and interesting play styles within each aspect.
Sure. I see a couple questions in the chat here. So this one is from Striatic. This game looks capable of being adorably wholesome, big win, but are there also more grimdark characters coming?
Maybe. We'll have to see, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Marvel Universe is huge.
Yeah,
Like,
the sky's the limit.
There's a range, and it's like, there's a lot to choose from. So, potentially, the options are there for sure. This one from Addison Hewlett. Does each hero have a singular designer? How many people are working in this game?
So yes and no. I was primarily the person behind developing and designing Miss Marvel. But I also had help from Caleb Grace and Nate French, and we had interns and stuff that would help. So it's a very collaborative effort. I think at the end of the day, we usually say that one person's in charge of an individual hero, but it is very much a team collaboration.
Yeah. Let's see. TCG rollout asking, will you have to wait until the packs release for Captain Miss Marvel to see the rest of the cards, or will we get more cards soon? Well, you're going to see more Miss Marvel cards today. There's an article going up after this stream at around 2 o'clock or so Central Time, and that will have more Miss Marvel cards from this pack. And there will also probably be some spoilers sent out as we get a bit closer to release. So you'll have that to look forward to as well. A question for you. Where did it go? Jedi Geek Girl. What is your favorite hero out of the 7 announced heroes so far?
Oh, yeah, that's... so growing up, my favorite hero was always Spider-Man. He was always like the hero that I just felt connected with.
Yeah.
And it was definitely that way, honestly, until I was working on Miss Marvel. I didn't know a whole lot about Miss Marvel before I started working on her.
Yeah.
So once I was like, I'm going to be designing her, I started reading her comics. She might be my favorite now. Miss Marvel's absolutely
she's so
amazing.
good.
It's a close between Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Miss Marvel, because they're both great characters. But yeah, I was so surprised at how much I liked her comics. Like, it was just completely blown away.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. And I love Miss Marvel. I really like Iron Man as well.
Yeah, Tony Stark's
and fortunately, his playstyle fits very much with what I like to do, which is just make a huge tower of stuff and play it out.
Playstyle wise, I definitely would say Miss Marvel. I love being able to throw things out and pull them back. And that's a lot of fun for me.
Get that kind of minor recursion. Yeah, that's sweet. What aspect is your favorite at the moment from Zach Bunn?
I would have to go with probably protection, which, that makes the Miss Marvel pack perfect for me. But I love being able to just jump in, soak a lot of damage, help my teammates, sometimes do some sort of like retaliation type thing where, oh, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. I feel like Nova fits pretty well with that. I also really like controlling the board, so protection sort of gives you a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. This one from Sayoko Oblivion. How much research goes into each character as part of their design?
Oh, a lot. I think it. Some characters, some people are more familiar with. For instance, with Captain America, Caleb Grace was very, very familiar with Captain America.
Sure.
Whereas I wasn't as familiar with Miss Marvel, so I spent weeks reading her comics and just absorbing as much information as I could about her. So I think it's sort of dependent on who the hero is and just how familiar the designer is. But if there's any sort of unfamiliarity, then there's a lot of research involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, give me one quick question to find this. So Javier Lustanu asks, will there be characters without an alter ego? Guardians, Inhumans, some X-Men?
Potentially. Yeah, it's definitely design space that we might explore in the future for sure.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. I don't even know how that would work. Jonathan Rector asks, any thoughts on having us fight 2 villains on the board at the same time? Well, we announced the Wrecking Crew scenario pack.
I'm going to one-up you.
Have you thought about fighting 4 villains at the same time? Okay, this is from Veruca. Does this game come with a campaign like Arkham Horror, or is it only one-shot boss fights?
So in the core set, the events are tied together thematically, but there is no sort of campaign element to the core set. But campaign is something that we have discussed at a later date. So I think we'll just have to see more announcements related to that.
Yeah, absolutely. This question from Hilgen Dwarf. Will there be an announcement in the near future about the rest of the initial release cycle? Very excited to hear about the other heroes and scenarios being released. So we're going to kind of make these announcements as they come. You know, once we get to, I do want to stress sort of first of all that like this isn't a game with traditional cycles. Right, this is not like a Game of Thrones, a card game, or Legends of Five Rings, a card game where you're going to get like 6-pack cycle, deluxe expansion, 6-pack cycle, deluxe expansion. It's much more variable and mutable, and even these hero packs do not necessarily come in 6-pack cycles.
Yeah.
So once we get to the end of where we have it currently announced, so once we get past Wrecking Crew, we will give a little bit more of a peek forwards at like you can expect, X hero packs and whatever else coming in the future. But that'll be coming around the time that we're done with Wrecking Crew. Let's see, other questions. Are there any heroes and villains that are completely off limits and we'll never see them in the game?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. So get excited.
Pretty much, yeah. Sky's the limit. Whoever we think is interesting is who we can kind of make.
David Richardson, what are some gameplay tips you can give us when we get to play Miss Marvel?
That's a great question. I think when I sit down to play Miss Marvel, I generally like to spend at least a round or two in alter ego form, get that extra hand size, use the ability to set up. I try to get my personas into play. She actually has 3 personas. We only showed 2, but they're all very useful, all very helpful, and kind of help you have those explosive turns as Miss Marvel. Also, a tactic that I like to use when you use Miss Marvel's ability to pull back an attack or a thwart or a defense event, you could play that event again and use all of its effects. But something I like to do is to play an event, pull it back, and then spend that card as a resource to do a different thing. I always feel like that's a very exciting moment. So I think, just get set up and then just try to figure out clever and useful ways to use your ability to pull things back and either use them again or to empower something else.
Another question from Zach Bunn here. How do you balance the 2 options on obligations so that neither is the obvious choice?
Oh, that is a tricky thing to do. Just a lot of play testing.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it comes down to. Some of those obligations go through multiple iterations because it is very much about finding exactly what works and what really creates an interesting choice.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second. Here we go. This one from Bob Benton. How did you guys approach restrictions for healing when designing heroes/alter egos?
Restrictions for healing?
Yeah, I believe probably for like setting hit points, recovering health.
Sure. A lot of that, again, just kind of comes down to play testing. What feels right for the hero. For instance, Kamala Khan has a regenerative factor, so we felt like, the 5 recovery was good for her.
Right.
But at the same time, she is kind of a hero she's not a super huge, muscular, really super tough hero. So we kind of set her hit points low. We let her sort of spring back, bounce into action, which in my opinion kind of fits her theme, her style.
Yeah.
So it really just comes down to a lot of testing again and just kind of seeing what feels right.
Sure. So you mentioned that in the hero pack, there's a mix of like new cards and then reprints for filling out her deck. How many reprints are typically there in the deck?
It depends on the pack. We are mostly trying to design. We really want the decks that you take out of the box to feel like a cohesive experience. We really want it to feel exciting when you play that deck, because a lot of people don't like to deck build. So that deck should feel really good to play. And when we are constructing these decks and deciding, what is put in there are some cards from the core set that just work so well. So that is sort of dependent on the specific hero and the specific style that we're going for, on what we choose to add as a reprint and what we don't. But generally there's, I'd say, anywhere between like 5 to 6 cards that are reprinted, roughly. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah. This one from Madison Freese. How do you guys decide what resource type each card has?
So that is something that also kind of comes down to play testing and a lot of discussion. We try to keep the resource types relatively balanced, and sometimes we will look at different combos that you can do with different resource types and try to figure out if those combos might be too strong. We need to change some of the resource types on some cards, or if it's just right. For example, the card we showed before, Concussive Blow, that card, you get the kicker if you do the fist resource. It also generates a fist resource. So if you have 3 of those in your deck, it sort of helps you do that ability.
Sure.
But not every card necessarily needs that. Some cards already stand on their own, and if you gave it sort of that self-synergy, it might be a little too powerful. So it just kind of comes down to testing and seeing what feels right.
Sure. This question from Coolio, watching the stream instead of working. Who is your personal favorite hero in the Marvel Universe?
I think, again, that comes down to it's either Spider-Man or Miss Marvel. It's one of those two. If you would have asked me a year ago, easily would have said Spider-Man. Now I truly don't know. It's one of they're pretty much tied.
Yeah. Question from Sayoko Oblivion, clarifying on the reprints. Do they have the same art as the original card?
Yeah, but they are the same exact card. Yep.
Let's see here from Matthew Beauregard. Will there be some special bonuses for pure teams once their characters are all released? So like bringing all the Fantastic Four or all the Defenders together or the Guardians or what have you?
I think that's something that we might be able to talk about in future pack discussions and things. We definitely want the Avengers team to feel like the Avengers.
Right, and we saw a bit of that with Captain America.
Exactly. So yeah, I think there are incentives for playing people of the same team together.
Very good. We'll probably just take a couple more questions, but we do still have a little time. This from David Richardson. When you've been playing Miss Marvel, do you have a story or moment that happened that was really epic?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, which is unfortunate because I know that there were so many moments where it was just like this very just like visceral feeling. I think maybe one of the first times that I realized I could pull back that card and then spend it to play something else, it just felt good.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was intending to pull this back and do it again, and then I was like, oh no, this is better. I'm going to do this instead. And I don't remember specifically what scenario that was against or when it actually happened, but I know that when it happened, I was just like, oh yeah, that's cool. And that's always kind of stuck with me. I've always liked that play a lot.
Yeah. From Jari H, are you going to keep the game easy to manage for solo players? Power creep can tend to make solo harder and harder as the game matures.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think we're always talking about how to make the game accessible at all player counts. And we definitely want, the stuff that you play in the core set to feel relatively on par with the things that you play in the later expansions and boxes and stuff. So we're always, talking about power creep, trying to make sure that it doesn't make its way into the game too much, and just keeping everything manageable across the board.
Yeah, and it helps a lot that the game is kind of already necessarily balanced based on your number of players, right? Where there's that kind of like player count symbol, where it's like the threat increases based on how many players there are.
Yeah.
So that really helps in that respect. All right, I think a last one from Jedi Geek Girl. What are you excited most about the public to discover? What are you excited about most about the public to discover when they get their hands on this game?
On this game, I think I'm really excited for those storytelling moments, those moments that you have in the game that you talk about a year later or 2 years later. Games that I've loved throughout my lifetime, I always seem to have moments with that. So it's really cool for me to know that other people might have the same thing with this.
All right. I guess final thing, they're asking if they can get just a small tease of Thor. Because he's in the rule book, right?
Sure.
So they know that he is coming. He's the next hero pack after Miss Marvel. He has Mjolnir.
He has a hammer.
He has a hammer. He can throw it, and it's pretty sweet. Yeah. He's probably the hero I'm most excited for in the near future.
Yeah. He's pretty exciting. He's very he feels extremely powerful when you play him.
Yeah.
That's probably my
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for watching our stream today. We stream every Tuesday and Thursday, so subscribe to our channel. We'll be doing more Marvel stuff in the future as well as all of our other games. Ring that bell so you're notified whenever we post new videos. Thanks to Carolina Game Tables for this awesome streaming table. Join us on Thursday. We're going to be doing a bit of a preview. If you don't know, next week is our X-Wing and Destiny World Championships. So this Thursday, we're going to have the devs from X-Wing and Destiny on. We're going to be talking about Worlds, about the meta, what they expect, what could be a dark horse there. So come and join us for that, and then next week watch all the action. X-Wing and Destiny World Championships. Just follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links in the description. We'll see you guys next time.